Go.
Welcome to Northern Lights Spiritual Center. My name is Reverend Amaré, and I'm here with Reverend Mykal Amaré. And we are open today for first time in a long time. We are still on Zoom, so hello out to our folk on Zoom. Stephanie Scranton, who is our practitioner. We have Reverend Pamela Beatty, who is the founding minister here at Northern Lights. And we see that we have Reba Schneider, who is getting her car parked. And we have our lovely Sherry, who is here and who has been visiting with us via Zoom on a number of times. So Northern Lights Spiritual Center is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Lights Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. And we have our wonderful guest, David, is here playing piano and singing for us, so he will sing our opening song.
Feel free to join me from wherever you are. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace, quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For spirit, one spirit is in this very room.
So for our meditation time, the invitation is to just take a deep breath in. As we hold the breath and then let the breath out. Breathing in again. And breathing out. And a third time, breathing in. And breathing out. Let's just settle into a quiet and stillness. Letting ourselves follow the music. Letting ourselves follow our breath. And in this time and in this space, I invite us to let come to mind what gives us thanks, what lets us feel gratitude, what lets us feel pride. So to let those points of pride, those points of gratitude, just welcome them in. To let them fill us, to let them lift us, let them uphold us. We allow ourselves to let gratitude draw us together. We allow ourselves to let pride bring us together. We allow ourselves to stand together for justice. We allow ourselves to invite those most distant from justice to have that distance dissipate. To make an effort to lift up and raise up those most distant from justice. And in that sensation of gratitude, in that sensation of pride, I invite us to become present right here, right now. We want to come back to the space where we are, with open eyes and open hearts. And breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And I say, Amen. I say, Ashe. And I say, and so it is.
Good morning. So I'm going to do my very best to introduce you to a song you will never have heard before, because it's only about old. Michael saw it when I posted it on Facebook. He said, "Oh, I like this song, it makes me cry." So I thought, well, let's do that when I'm there then, because that's always good. And when he confirmed my being here today, he said, "You're going to sing that song that made me cry." And I don't remember which one it was, but I'll go find it. So I did. And this is it. I'm going to teach you the first verse, and then we'll do all the verses in succession, because it's brand new to everyone, including me. Let me give you shelter from the raging storm. You are always welcome. Here it's safe and warm. Let me give you shelter. Come inside and rest. If you're needing comfort, I will do my best. That's the first verse. Michael, they have access to the words?
Oh, no. Sorry.
Okay, that didn't happen. So then there's no way you can sing along with me. So I will just sing this for you now. Let me give you shelter from the raging storm. You are always welcome. Here it's safe and warm. Let me give you shelter. Come inside and rest. If you're needing comfort, I will do my best. Let me give you shelter. We can find you space. I've got food and water and a sleeping place. Let me give you shelter, care and friendly love. Stranger, friend or family, we live hand in glove. Let me give you shelter, make yourself at home. Though you feel abandoned, you are not alone. Let me give you shelter, all that I can do. When you need some refuge, I am here for you. Let me give you shelter from the raging storm. You are always welcome. Here it's safe and warm. You are always welcome. Here it's safe and warm.
So today's reading comes from The Power of Mindful Action by Tony Bakri. Bringing our whole self to the present moment. Looking upon leads to awareness. Awareness leads to action. And this is from the Talmud. Say it again. Looking upon leads to awareness. Awareness leads to action. The master once asked his disciples which was more important, wisdom or action. The disciples were unanimous. Action, of course. Of what use is wisdom that does not show itself in action? Said the master. And of what use is action that proceeds from an awakened mind or an unenlightened heart? Tony DeMello's fable highlights that deliberate action emanates from an awakened mind and pure heart. Mindful action unfolds when we are present in the moment, not absorbed in runaway thoughts. Our actions stem from being aware and awake to a greater purpose, and not victims to our innate desires. It is easy to succumb to numbing thoughts because they are buried deep within our psyche. We are only aware of them once we have carried out the deed. Mindful action involves bringing our whole selves into the present moment, engaged in the life as it unfolds. Our power lies in its practice and application. The more we are mindful in our actions, the less pain and suffering we encounter. John Kabat-Zinn, the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction, states, "The aim of mindfulness is to act with clarity and intent. Mindful action calls us to be prepared instead of having divided focus. We become absorbed in the flow of experience of life and bring our thoughts into the present moment with openness and honesty. Does this make sense that being mindful of our thoughts leads to mindful actions and less stress? To avoid heartless action, we can practice mindful thinking and pay attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentality. For some, it may take a lifetime of anxiety, pain, and suffering to realize who they are. Yet through mindful action, we connect with our deepest self. Our actions result from thoughtfulness. We harmonize with our inner intelligence and trust the intuitive guidance that appeared, rather than dismiss it as unrelated. We realize underneath the facade, we are already wise and not at the mercy of thoughts and actions. Likewise, mindful action helps us deal with stress and anxiety because we are no longer governed by them. Instead, we use those disempowering states as motivators for wholehearted living. Stress and anxiety serve no role within the body's landscape since we are now mindful to the purpose they serve. Unity over separation. And so it is. So please join me for this month's meditation about I breathe in Black Lives Matter. I breathe out Black Lives Matter. In my heart, Black Lives Matter. In my mind, Black Lives Matter. In my art, Black Lives Matter. In my soul, Black Lives Matter. What do I say? What do I do? What do I hold and carry as truth? Black Lives Matter. I breathe in Black Lives Matter. I breathe out Black Lives Matter. In my heart, Black Lives Matter. In my mind, Black Lives Matter. In my heart, Black Lives Matter. In my soul, Black Lives Matter. What do I say? What do I do? What do I hold and carry as truth? Black Lives Matter. Now you breathe in Black Lives Matter. You breathe out Black Lives Matter. In your heart, Black Lives Matter. In your mind, Black Lives Matter. In your heart, Black Lives Matter. In your heart, Black Lives Matter. In your soul, Black Lives Matter. What do you say? What do you do? What do you hold and carry as truth? Black Lives Matter. We breathe in Black Lives Matter. We breathe out Black Lives Matter. In our heart, Black Lives Matter. In our mind, Black Lives Matter. In our soul, Black Lives Matter. In our heart, Black Lives Matter. In our soul, Black Lives Matter. What do I say? What do we do? What do we hold and carry as truth? Black Lives Matter. I breathe in Black Lives Matter. I breathe out Black Lives Matter. In my heart, Black Lives Matter. In my mind, Black Lives Matter. In my heart, Black Lives Matter. In my soul, Black Lives Matter. What do I say? What do I do? What do I hold and carry as true? Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Colors, so many colors, look at the colors everywhere. Dazzling array of color, caress the eye from here to there. How beautifully they mix together, oh how they complement each other. A collective glory with individual flair. The world's design has many colors and they're sacred, every one. They glisten and they gleam in a mosaic second to none. And like all that's on our planet, we're at our best when sharing worth with all the colors in the garden of all the people on this earth. Like the colors of all the flowers and the ones that light the sky, we each shine and glow in luster when other colors appear nearby. So many shades, tints, hues, and tones, when displayed alone, but even more so, amassed and unified. We're a rainbow sea of many colors, and that cannot be denied. We radiate such beauty when we blossom side by side. And like all that's on our planet, we're at our best when sharing worth with all the colors in the garden of all the people on this earth. Like all that's on our planet, we're at our best when sharing worth with all the colors in the garden of all the people on this earth.
David Duvall, thank you. And this is the first time we've had live music in this year, I think. I'm not sure. But anyway, good morning. My name's Mykal Amaré, Reverend Mykal Amaré, and this is the last Sunday in June, which is, Reverend Vaughn and I normally aren't here. We're usually at the Pride Parade. However, with all the coronavirus, that did not happen. Not the big one anyway. They had a smaller one. This month we've been focusing on the mindful maverick. The beginning of the month, I spoke about breathing, which we take it for granted. It's pretty easy, but if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be here. And breathing is a good practice to be mindful of, to be able to take in that nice, that deep breath, the one that goes all the way down, and not these itty-bitty short breaths. And then Reverend Vaughn spoke on mindful intentions the second week. And Reverend Pamela last week spoke on about mindful speaking. Say what you need to say, but do it mindfully. And this week it's about, the topic is mindful action. And mindful action involves bringing our self in the present moment, engaged with life as it unfolds. Its power lies in its practice and application to avoid heartless action, as Reverend Vaughn had in the reading. We can practice mindful thinking, in other words, think before we engage mouth, and pay attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. In religious science, we tout this saying to treat and move your feet, which that's really basically what this talk is about. Is when we do the 5-step prayer treatment, then there's things we need to do in order to bring about this manifestation. I mean, I could say and treat for like a ham sandwich sitting on the couch that I want, but if I don't do something about it, for instance, get up and make a ham sandwich, or ask somebody to bring me a ham sandwich, that ham sandwich is not going to appear out of thin air. And also, I can pray to increase my income, but then what do I have to do? I need to take steps in order to grow either my business or maybe get a job. And then also you can pray for health. What you need to do then is to follow the guidance on healthy eating, healthy practices, exercise, eating the right foods, which sometimes is not easy to do. And then I can also pray for better relationship. And then I need to listen to that inner knowing about what you want in that relationship. Because in that, you have to know what you want before, otherwise you're going to settle sometimes for something that is not what is your good. And it seems that we are always in a state of action, even just sitting, or sleeping, or breathing is action. Eating is action. Sleeping is action. All these things are action. Yet we're not always in the mindful interacting with our actions. And what could our lives look like if we are being mindful and intentional of our actions and aligning them with our intentions? I mean, if you take all these different things and you put them together, the mindful speaking, basically engaging your brain before opening your mouth, which I wish I could do all the time. I try to do it most of the time, but sometimes things just come out so fast that the brain didn't have time. I don't think the brain had time to say, is this good to say? Is this going to harm somebody? So, in these, so what our lives would look like would be a lot better, I believe. And prayer, we use prayer treatment, which is a 5-step treatment. And prayer changes, no matter what prayer, changes the person praying. It does not change God, because God is not, is changeless. If you pray and do not, and things don't change, you pray again. You keep on praying until it's effective. And the one thing that's got me nowadays, I was sharing with David because he wanted to know, kind of what music to pick for what I was going to talk about. And I said, well, we talk. And sometimes that's all we ever do, For instance, we talk and we like right now the thing came up where a certain party said, well, they put together this thing, they need to do these study groups. And study groups are good and fine for a lot of things, but you need action. And there's all these things about, well, we'll study the police reform, we'll study all this, and the studies don't mean a lot if you don't implement something, if you don't do some sort of action. And that's why I said we talk, and till you're blue in the face and nothing happens. Just like after a lot of these shootings that we've had, how many decades? Thoughts and prayers. Well, they're fine at the initial step because people do need, our caring thoughts and our prayers. However, you need to step beyond that. We need to do something to help stop these shootings, and it's not just the shootings. There's a plethora of things that happen in our society that need action. I've always heard that too, that saying that actions are louder than words. And the same thing with, a picture can, is worth 1,000 words too. And just by seeing, by looking, by acting, you can spout one thing, but if you turn around and do the totally opposite, you're not what you say you are. And so what if you get to know that you don't know how to act on certain things? You know something needs to be done. There needs to be action. What you can do then is you can pray for guidance. You can meditate. You can, and there's so many different things you can do. Meditate. You can actually even journal about it and ask yourself and ask your inner self exactly. Okay, what can I do in this case? How can I make a difference? How can I stand up and step up and do something that makes a difference in other people's lives? Because we are such a me world, I think, that everything has to focus around me. And that's not so, because if you don't help if you're not there for other people, how do you expect them to be there for you? Charles Fillmore said that so many people pray and pray and pray. They don't get action. Our bodies need to be acted upon. It is not altogether praying, but it is doing. You must do something. And that's like Moses said, treat and move our feet. I was trying to rack my brains all week about something that happened in an Al-Anon meeting when I was going to Al-Anon for a while, and I can't remember what it was, but I know it was something to do with, okay, you can say all this stuff, but then you have to do. But for the life of me, I've been trying to rack my brain, and I did some researching, but I couldn't do it. But it stuck with me all those years, and that's back in the early '80s. That you still have to do. You have to act. And then Ernest Holmes says, one's mind should swing from inspiration to action, from contemplation to accomplishment, from prayer to performance. And it seems real easy, but sometimes there's a lot of things that seem easy, but they in essence aren't. We try to do things, but then we stop because people say, well, you can't do that, or that can't be done. we have all the negative naysayers. When in essence, if you step up and do it and you fail, just try again. I mean, that's the only thing. That old saying, try again, and it's practice. It's the things that we need to do to act in this world to make a better world that will, in essence, work for everyone. There's some issues at hand that are really, really complex, like say like the gun issue, say like the police action, that they're complex. They seem to be complex because there's so many parts involved. Yet it could take many minds, like the what we call the race mind, that'll have to see things differently for there to be a substantive change. So that if because everybody's idea is not going to be the same. You are not going to think like I do, or, and that's unfortunate, I'm sorry. But so many times, that's the way, I think that's the way we think. If you don't think the way I do, I'm wrong. Or you're wrong, I mean. I had this friend of mine one time that I said something and I said, I was under the impression, or I felt that if I didn't agree with you, that I was wrong. And he started laughing at me. And I did, and then I finally got it, that, there's right, there's wrong, there's a whole lot of gray. And we each have different opinions, different beliefs, yet if we come together, and the conversation, that's one of the big things, is having a conversation with an open mind. Yes, you may not like my idea. No, I may not like your idea. But there's some place of compromise in the middle. I mean, there has to be. And it's that whole idea that it's got to be one way, and it's got to go out the window. Emerson says that whatever you do, you need courage. Whatever course you decide upon, there's always someone to help you, to tell you that you are wrong. And I firmly believe that. And I might be one of those that might say that you're wrong. There's difficulties arising that tempt you to believe your critics are right. Sometimes it's easy because I think sometimes we have an idea, we want to do something, but somebody else will say, well, you can't do that, or that's not doable, and you say, oh, I really didn't want to do that anyway. There's a fear that you might fail and stuff, but by somebody saying that this isn't possible, or that you can't do it, then that kind of leaves you off the hook. What else does he say here? To map out a course of action and to follow it to the end requires some of the same courage that a soldier needs. Peace has its victories, but it takes brave men and women to win them. And there's I was looking, trying to find a list of people that made their actions made such significant differences in the world. And I came up with a few, and I know there's thousands of people, but some people are never known for the actions they've taken. They've been small actions, and small actions are as big as the large ones because it's got to start somewhere. Action has to start somewhere. And the first one that came up was the Salt March, led by Gandhi in India in 1930. And then there's Rosa Parks in the Montgomery bus boycott. And there was Emily Davidson, who protested for suffrage. And there's Tommy Smith and John Carlos at the Olympic protests in Mexico in 1968. And I'll stop there for a moment because there was another person in that picture. I read the story behind that, and this is 2020. And that was 1968. I had never heard. This other individual, the small white guy, was standing there. he was in solidarity with those two men. They had a conversation, and they were talking to him, and he said, well, what do you believe, or, do you agree with us? And he was very much in agreement with them. And if you see that picture again, you'll see a patch. And it was some kind of human rights patch. I don't remember exactly what it was. And because they didn't have any more gloves, they only brought the one pair, and because he wanted to do something. That man was so ostracized till the day he died in Australia for what he stood up with them for something. He had hard times finding jobs. I mean, his whole life was just misery there. Eventually, I think it was in 2015 or something like that, they did, apologize and did something in his honor or whatever. But, he stood up. Sometimes there's more to the story. And so these people, and then there was Martin Luther King and the whole civil rights movement. He died for what he believed in, for his actions. And there's Stonewall. And right now it's the Black Lives Matter movement. There's so many things that change history, change our lives, change the way not necessarily the way we think, but the idea is to, we always hear this, to open our minds. Sometimes our blinders are so tight that we cannot see anything beyond what's right in front of us. And so these people and thousands more people they have stood up, they have actually given their lives for what they believe in. They have taken action because they saw something that needed to be done. Like Emma Curtis Hopkins always says, which I really don't like to sing sometimes, if you see a job, it's yours. If you see a job to be done, or you see something to be done, it's yours to do. Or I like to think of it, maybe it's not all yours to do. However, it is. You can start that little ripple, and you can seek out people to assist you with it. Because sometimes there's a lot of things we cannot do on our own. But if we have the idea, and if we have the passion for it, then others will see that, and they'll be drawn to you or to the situation that you want to change, that you want to correct. I want to look up exactly what they said about mindfulness, and because I go, mindfulness, I know, but sometimes their words come up, I know what they mean, but I have a hard time explaining it. It says it's a Reverend Ron sometimes. I said, okay, exactly what does this mean to you? Because I can't put it in words. Not sure what that means, but it doesn't have to mean anything. But everything means something, right? Mindfulness is a state of being awake, aware, and present to the moment. Here, thoughts, words, and actions are intentional. And that's the part that I really like, is that when you're mindful, everything you do is intentional, whether it's positive or negative. Because if you have actually put a lot of thought into it, then definitely that's like Reverend Vaughn spoke on thoughtful intent or mindful intentions. When you're mindful and you put that out there, that's powerful. And then practicing being fully present even with the mundane task. And I like this because a spiritual practice and whatever can be anything. I mean, like here it says, mundane tasks like washing the dishes or folding the laundry. It trains us to be present. You're focusing on what you're doing. You're not like a lot of times you've got 100 different things going in your head, but you're doing something right in front of you, but you're not being mindful to what you're doing. And when you're mindful to it, all this other stuff kind of just at the moment fades away. And mindfulness affords us the opportunity to commune with the divine, even washing dishes. I used to hate dishes because as a kid I started washing and drying dishes when I had to stand on a chair to do it, and so for years I hated doing dishes, and now I don't mind it so much because I hate a sink full of dirty dishes. So what's going to happen to get rid of the dirty dishes? There's a job to be done. And enjoy it or be mindful of what you're doing. I wasn't mindful of what I was doing a couple weeks ago when I was using my new slicer and I was slicing an onion. I took off a chunk of my thumb, and that thing was sharp. It was brand new, and it just, and so things like that when you're not being mindful of what you're doing can happen. Let's see, where was I? It is through this step, or it is through this deep awareness that we access that which is ours to do. Because a lot of times when you're doing something really mundane, and you're focusing on it, whatever. I have had these things pop into my head, like that I can do. A lot of times, what happens is right before I go to sleep. That's when things like this happen until they pop in, and I'm amazed at that. I remember that the next day. That's one of the first things I remember. I was going to do this, and I thought of it right before I went to sleep. And it's interesting how the mind works. My mind is blowing all the time. It is through this deep awareness that we, which is ours to do, and an action emerges naturally. Our work, our action, then emerges from within and becomes our faith. Our actions are the embodiment and the demonstrations of our faith. Our actions are informed by our faith. That was by Bernard Rustin says. He says, the proof that one believes is in action. So your faith, you can speak your faith and all those things that you believe, but if you don't do anything about it, if you don't step into action, do you really have that faith? Do you really believe? Something I read this morning, I felt drawn to share because these let's see, pro women's softball team. Excuse me. A few weeks ahead of the slated return to most U.S. sports, a pro women's softball held its first game in Melbourne, Florida this week. Shortly after the game ended, every member of the Texas-based scrapyard fast pitch team quit the team. Every single one. You might ask why. Why? At some point during the game, the team's general manager, Connie May, tweeted a picture of the players standing during the national anthem. The tweet tagged, you know who, declaring, everybody's respecting the flag. The player tweeted, we might be standing in this photo, but we sure as hell aren't standing for this. I'm embarrassed. I'm heartbroken. I'm disgusted. I will never be associated with your organization again. Black Lives Matter. The tone deafness on this is unbelievable. I mean, it's evidently something that these players, it's passion. I would think. Yet they took this huge step to stand for something. Just because they stood for the flag did not mean that. Just because you do one thing does not mean you're supporting something else down the road. It just, I saw that this morning and it's like, it just made, it was sad, but it made me feel good. That there are people that they aren't gonna, just bow down and cow down to things that happen around them. To take action, to stand up, to step forward and do something. So, what I'm asking this week for you to do is just to ask yourself, look around. Ask yourself, what is it? What is mine to do? What can I do? Where can I act to help create better lives, betterment in others' lives? That didn't want to come out right. Because religious science and centers for spiritual living, that's one of the things that we, I guess the word is tout, to create lives that work for everyone. And that's something I don't think should just be talk. That needs to be acted on. It needs to be done. We need to do it instead of just talking. And I see, to me, there's a lot of things being done. There's people, the protests, the marches, and you don't have to be loud about it. I mean, that's one thing people think, if you're yelling, screaming, and throwing stuff and violent stuff, you don't. Was it last week or a week before, they said they thought there was, I forgot how many thousand people marching on Capitol Hill, and it was a silent march. Sometimes you can do more with silence than you can do with I believe you can do more with silence than you can do with anger, hate, and violence. Because people aren't used to silence. They're not used to that. They're not used to you acting in a way that you're out there marching, so you should be loud, you should be violent, you should be all this stuff. But it does not have to be that way. So this week, we have work to do. There's a lot of work to be done out here in this crazy world we live in. So just ask yourself, what is it? What is it mine to do? What is mine to do? And then do it. And so in closing this, I just would like everyone to be still and know. Know that you are one with the divine. You are one with the presence of life in this universe. Each one of us. Each one of us are connected, whether we like it or not. We are connected like a golden thread that weaves through all of humanity, connecting us, love, with that golden thread of love. And so this week, this day, I just invite you to look deep within and listen to that still small voice, and you ask it, what is mine to do? Because that still small voice does not lie. That still small voice is the voice of the divine within you. And so with that, I give thanks, and so it is.
Yep. So, this next song I'm about to do has a chorus that if there were a room full of people, I would be asking to join me on. And since I have a couple of people here, but more of you online, I think Mykal has the words for the chorus where you can access them. This is everything I've done today is within a month old, because I've been writing a lot during this time of sheltering. But let me teach you this chorus, and then we'll do the whole song. It goes, gotta keep marching, marching, right across that bridge. Gotta keep walking, walking to a brighter way to live. Gotta keep moving, moving forward, on and on, till we build a world where everyone belongs. Let's do that one more time. Gotta keep marching, marching, right across that bridge. Gotta keep walking, walking to a brighter way to live. Gotta keep moving, moving forward, on and on, till we've built a world where everyone belongs. Good, I'm going to move on to the verse and we'll come back and sing that again in a minute. The world we knew is over, it can't ever be the same. It's time we rise up from the ashes, be reborn from out the flame. This time we will be stronger, with equality for all. We'll learn new truth at last, breaking through outdated walls. Here we go. Gotta keep marching, marching, right across that bridge. Gotta keep walking, walking to a brighter way to live. Gotta keep moving, moving forward, on and on, till we've built a world where everyone belongs. Please come and stand beside me. Let us do this side by side. We've got to heal these ancient wounds. Let compassion be our guide. Together we can do this. Build a land where all are free to love and live our lives in collective harmony. Here we go. Gotta keep marching, marching, right across that bridge. Gotta keep walking, walking to a brighter way to live. Gotta keep moving, moving forward, on, where everyone belongs. We can learn to see all neighbors as extensions of ourselves. We each can cheer and lend a hand, so that everyone excels. We're in this life together, each unique and yet the same. Our humanness unites us, that's the message here proclaimed. All together, we gotta keep marching, marching, right across that bridge. Gotta keep walking, walking to a brighter way to live. Gotta keep moving, moving forward, on and on, till we built a world where everyone belongs. Till we've built a world where everyone belongs. Thank you for joining me.
It's the first time we've done, with live people in the room, so it's been a little interesting. So I want to thank everybody for joining us on Northern Lights Spiritual Center on Zoom or on Facebook Live, and we'll be here again next Sunday. And if you'd like to donate to the center, you could just go to our website and click the donate button, and our website is northernlightspiritualcenter.com. And so those of you that joined us on Zoom, if you care to stay around for the post-talk conversation, that's one good thing about technology. You don't have to be in the room to hang around and chat and give feedback and whatever needs to be done. What's that? Okay. So, thank you all. And you still have to call this out so you get a practice everything?
Sure.
Got him. It's right. That wasn't on the order of service.
So, and just invite us to consider for a moment that call that arises in each of us. And to just take a moment and imagine that that call is like we are seeing a little puppy, or we are seeing a baby, or we are seeing a beautiful flower, and we've been seeing that it's been popping up, but it's finally showing itself. So what I'd like us to do is to imagine it in all of its newness, that call, and that sense of delight, that sense of wonder. So just take a moment in that sense. And I give thanks for the glory of the divine. I give thanks for the magnificence of how the divine shows up moment by moment by moment. I give thanks and I revel in the way that the voice of Spirit expresses. This voice, sometimes it seems like it's silent. Sometimes we look around our world and we can ask the question, what is going on? And that desire to know, that rising up in us of what is going on, is that means, that message of that voice of Spirit, because perhaps that voice of Spirit is what rises up in us as a place of questioning, as a place of wondering, as a place of inquiry and desire and longing. So I give thanks that we can listen to that voice, that we can listen to that voice speaking through us, speaking through others, speaking through voices that make us say, wait a second, are you crazy? That continually there is divine operation at play. And just like we can look at a baby or a puppy or a flower that is opening up, let ourselves revel in that sense of wonder, in that sense of awe, in that sense of beauty and majesty. And just naturally let ourselves feel the gratitude of that. And in that place of gratitude, I release these words to the automatic action of the law, which is just a fancy way of saying that it is at work. It is happening. It is making itself, expressing itself, letting itself be known. And I close this prayer saying, Amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
And so it is.